TITOR, Book 2, Jacob's Ladder. We are all time travelers, albeit at different speeds. Mankind marching through irreversible time. You in the universe, crawling blindly toward an undiscovered destination. Unfortunately, on the winding road home, we were all taken to Rome. Popes and paper, cardinals and contracts. What does it mean to be sane in an insane world? What laurels are worth living for? Jacob has only seen paradise in his dreams. The autodidact could climb any rung in the ladder of corporate life, yet he always leaned towards fundamental theoretical physics. Questions and answers. The chicken or the egg? Every answer can be revealed once the right questions are asked. Jacob held the heels of physicists to the fire with his ability to postulate and propose paradoxes and phenomena. For every Esau, there is a Jacob, and for every lock, there is a key. Jacob is a key maker. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure all of you are wondering why I've arranged this meeting today. Surely you have already come to your own conclusions. However, the purpose of today's meeting is to introduce you to this man. The man was Frank Tipler. Frank had been sitting to the left of Jacob with an appearance so average that up until now, few had even noticed him. Frank J. Tipler was a physicist and cosmologist still attending MIT. Tipler recently posited his theory of the omega point, which was based on the work of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. Tipler had recently posited his theory of the omega point, which regarded a type of religious resurrection device. Tipler, unlike most mathematicians, had a deep spiritual conviction and an interest in the occult. As a younger man, he had been fascinated by magnetism. He still had that attraction. Magic is just another name for magnetism, gravity, the opposing force to light, energy, electricity. Although he shared little of his real convictions, he now felt an unexplained urge to intervene in our human history. The men in the room were a mixture of IBM, CERN, and government officials, men that made decisions for the masses. I have recently become aware of a certain operating system found on one of your machines, the IBM 5100. The operating system on this model, I have been told, is able to communicate across all current operating systems all over the world. Until now, I have been unable to utilize even a fraction of the computing power due to the lack of a type of universal translator or global network. However, with the bipartisan efforts of both IBM and CERN, I believe we could finally traverse man's last dimension. Over the past decade, Tipler had been working night and day on his Tipler sinusoid. His studies in magnetism led to the discovery of the Tipler cylinder. The basic theoretical device works as follows. A Tipler cylinder uses a massive and long cylinder spinning around a longitudinal axis. The rotation creates a frame dragging effect in fields of closed time-like curves. These are traversable in a way to achieve a subliminal time travel into the past. Due to the recent breakthroughs in computing, I believe CERN and IBM can finally manipulate this fourth dimension we call time. Empty men always bite. Immediately following the meeting, Jacob was given the green light to give Tipler one of the new prototype models at IBM, the IBM 5100. The whole drive over to Frank's, Jacob couldn't take his eyes off of that machine. So what's so special about this damn computer anyway? Jacob asked Frank from the footsteps leading away from the front door. You might as well ask God what's so special about you, Tipler mumbled before shutting the door. When one door closes, another opens. These ancient axioms are metaphors for the metaphysical manifestations of quantum physics. Whether it's a tree falling in the woods or a cat in a box, only an event observed exists. This is the dimension of time. Time is but an arbitrary measurement of the motion of objects through space. Space is not linear. Space is determined by the point of view of an observer when viewing an object. The distance between an observer and the object being viewed is called space. Objects or energy masses in space do not necessarily move in a linear fashion either. In this universe, objects tend to move randomly or in a curving or cyclical pattern, or as determined by agreed upon rules or laws of physics. Make no mistake, only men make laws. Nature has habits, feedback loops of positive and negative. History is not a linear record of events, even though many authors of Earth's history books would beg you to believe otherwise. It is not a string that can be stretched out and marked like a measuring tool. History is a subjective observation of the movement of objects and events through space, recorded from the point of view of an observer, from their perspective of time. Within the next week, Jacob and Frank would unknowingly start a closed time loop, the same loop and timeline that John will be born on decades later. Whether we want to believe it or not, we are all on our own closed time loops, starting with our own awareness of space and becoming the only objective observer of time. The small group of individuals at the first meeting all agreed to greenlight the Templar project. This has always been a battle for the control of the timeline. You see, these events didn't happen out of dumb luck or chance. They happened out of choice. Jacob had long been involved in projects regarding quantum physics. The most recent project used an electromagnetic scanner to search for the 0-point vibration, or base frequency. Every bit of matter is made up of vibrations and frequencies, all of differing dynamics. Humans, we are just God's golden gadgets, finely tuned receivers and generators. Jacob's team discovered the base frequency was 39.7. This was the monochord of Pythagoras, the vibrating string creating our universe. Lower vibrational entities and energies are seen as red in the color spectrum. Higher vibrational energy is blue. The slower the frequency, the lower the vibration. 3D reality is based on 3 separate subjective dimensions, measurements men can agree upon, verify with human eyes. What is often overlooked is the substrate holding matter in place is actually the dimension of light. There is no darkness, no such thing, nothing. Get it? No thing. Darkness is but the absence of light. A shadow is a characteristic, a description. Photons are single wave, atoms dual wave. This is when light becomes matter. That is the moment we can manipulate, the moment men like Jacob mean to exploit. That vibrating string becomes a trinary wave of choice and chance, a quantum question that once answered solidifies into reality, into matter, into being. Military men are trained to trust this gut instinct. Mystics teach this space, the solar plexus, is what can determine the outcome of our decisions. The simple fact is, you can choose science or philosophy. In the end, no one's found the answer. What better answer than that do we need? As Jacob sat on the steps outside his front door smoking a cigarette, he felt that fist, balled up tight next to his heart, probably his solar plexus. Every outsider is a philosopher. a secret king of an imaginary domain, working on a Rubik's Cube of emotional instability. The will to conquer is in all of us. It's the conscience that corrects us. When you zoom out far enough, every religion and superstition is only given as blueprints to build our own morals and dogmas, to appoint our own imaginary judge and jury. You know only you can change yourself, so wouldn't it be also true that only you can save yourself? Back to the basics of dimensions. The first is the atom. Just as they say the first of us was Adam, when matter becomes the only Maya we remember. This is mass, the grouping of atoms, the makeup of molecules we can observe and measure. The second dimension is the length of said matter in relation to space. Space is relative to the observer. The third is width. Many measurements exist for each. The reason we believe these subjective measurements to be definitive dimensional laws is primarily due to the enforcement of a global standard measurement system. Men have laws. Nature has habits. The fourth dimension, of course, is time, observation, perception, the easiest dimension to influence and adjust, if able.